Guys, we are back for Feud episode 2, The Other Woman. The team is back and we're excited to bring you all the scoop from this episode. But before we start, we're going to head to Ashley Daniels on the red carpet for her interview with Miss Susan Sarandon.
If you could say one thing to Bette Davis tonight, what would you say to her?
Wow, good question. That, believe it or not, that's the first time anyone asked me that. Maybe I would just ask her, you know, if she was happy with her life, and I think she would probably say yes, as painful as it was, because there's a quote in her book, one of her books, where she says, if I feel something, then I'll go after it, even if there's a chance I might get hurt, because there's no point in going through life and protecting yourself. I'm paraphrasing slightly, and I really admired that about her. So she probably would say it was cool, but I'd probably start with that. Although she might criticize my performance, I don't know.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome back, guys. Feud, Bette versus Joan, episode 2, entitled The Other Woman, although I feel like it should be called Manipulation. We're going to get into all of that. I am Maria Menounos, and I'm joined by my Feud friends.
Justin Sylvester at The Lady Sitter.
Fern Ronay at Fern Ronay.
Keven Undergaro, The Tomorrow Show.
Guys, I love this show so much. And by the way, great question by Ashley Daniels on the red carpet from Susan Sarandon, or to Susan Sarandon. And I think I would ask her the same thing. Was it all worth it? Because when you see this episode, you hear them both kind of debating their lives in a sense, but really Bette, like, what was my life about? I have no one, I'm alone, I'm unhappy. It's a real question to ask, right? To be or not to be. That is the question.
I
So what
loved
do you
her
think?
answer. That her answer was that she would do it despite all the pain. And you described her as being evolved earlier, and that's the definition of evolving your soul, is going through it no matter how much it hurts, as long as you learn something. So that was a good answer.
That's really interesting.
I want to know if it was all worth it.
I know. Well, I always question that, right? Because you're always thinking the grass is greener, right? When you see someone who has a full life, they're married, they have children, they have, you know, the white picket fence, and you're like, man, I'm working so hard, I'm grinding, I'm suffering, it's so hard. And if you're one of these women and you're alone and your kids hate you and all of this stuff, you're like, why did I care about the work so much?
Yeah.
It is a real true question, but I think we all have that question in life because we're all not going to have everything.
No.
Right? So you do wonder, but it was a
millennial.
fascinating episode, and I think it was really cool because we took a deeper dive into the history of their feud. Because in the last episode, I wasn't quite sure, because it's not like I'm well researched on their feud and when it started, but this episode really shows you how their feud started. Who wants to take it away? And
Well, I did mention in the last episode, it started with the boy, doesn't it always, Franchot Tone, but it was always simmering there, and it was always the actress versus the movie star. And then there was a time when they're just both on the same level, and they, you know, sadly,
It
they're both
begins
on
with
the
a
same
boy,
level.
and then it continues with a
Yes,
boy.
it
Yeah,
does.
with Jack Warner.
And Aldrich,
Yeah.
the director. They're going back and forth.
Yeah, but in the 40s, if you remember,
Oh, you're right.
Jack Warner used Joan to get
Yes.
under Betty's skin by
Yes.
offering a contract at Warner Brothers when she left MGM.
then her
Right.
career got hot,
Yes.
and Betty's kind of sizzled.
And Bette never had any respect for her. She called her the mannequin of MGM. Here comes the mannequin of MGM.
Yes.
And now she comes to Warner's and takes a role that she won an Oscar for that Bette Davis turned down,
Yeah.
and then complains that she wasn't offered it.
No, it's crazy. It's insane. It always is with a man. But if you look into this actual episode, you see that Hedda kind of gets in between them and gets involved in it too. So now you have a woman kind of whooping up
Stirring the pot,
stirring
too.
the pot. It's like Real Housewives all over again.
But that's why I'm saying, like, this should have been called manipulation. I'm not criticizing their choice in title, obviously. I'm being facetious. But at the same time, this episode was all about the manipulation behind the scenes, the stirring of the pot from men and women alike, because it is the age-old story. Like, we've watched this happen. I've lived through it in different ways where, you know, you come in and the star's insecure and they start putting you in longer skirts and they why their makeup artist makes you up to look a little uglier, and they make mistakes on you. You're like, wait, I have eyeliner on one eye and not on the other. Why?
Wow.
And God forbid you say anything, then they beat you into submission.
Spill that tea, Maria.
Yes.
Look, I am
Man, you're
slurping.
making me realize I got a book in me.
Well,
honey.
Kathy Bates playing Joan Blondell. Do you know when Zeta Jones playing Olivia de Havilland goes, and today it's changed with feminism. I feel, she's trying to be positive. I feel like Jane Fonda would support whoever it was. And when Joan responds, he goes, really? No. He's like, we would kill each other, and what'd you say? After we're done picking the bones, we'll clean our teeth or something, But
well, it's human nature, when you feel like you're in competition with somebody, it's eat or be eaten. That's what we were always taught, even as kids, playing, pee-wee football and sports and everything. And I bet it must be harder for, when women get involved, because for gay men, it's tough. We're tough on each other. We fight. We're in competition. And working with women are tough on each other. They're a little bit tougher than normal.
Well, I think
the
toughest on each other. Well, what people have told me is that, there's not as many slots for the women. So they have to be extra, whereas a guy goes, you know what, there's a little bit more opportunities, but there's definitely something about the scorn of a woman.
Yeah.
And I feel like, who was it, Jack Nicholson? He even had the quote, he said, the minute women figure out that all they have to do is stick together, he goes, we guys pack our bags, it's over. They'll rule the world. He's like, thank God they don't.
See, it makes me so ill because there were so many scenes in this, whether it was Jack Warner and the director having that sit down where it's like tear them apart, make them hate each other, and I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
And Hedda is playing to his insecurities, like all this stuff was going on, and it was making me so sick because I don't play those games, and I'm not equipped to play them at all.
Yeah.
And I've never viewed anyone really as my competition. So I've been so secure in who I am and what I am that to me, I want to play with everybody. I want to have fun with everybody. And everyone has unfortunately launched their attacks at me. And I'm like, why? I'm still that little girl that comes home to my mom and like, why are they being mean to me, Mom? And she's like, Maria, they're jealous. Aww. And I'm like, but why? That story has played out my entire life.
And the hard thing is, you guys, is to stay the course and to remain pure. And that's why they say, like, if you've gone through a lot of traumas in your life and you've come out of it pure, not wanting to torture other people back, not bitter, you are something very special. And we see that both of these women are gravely affected by this kind of torture that they've been put through, and it manifests in different ways with both of them.
Well, you see Hedda playing to oh God, I can never remember Alfred Molina's Bob's insecurity about as a director, like, this other director wouldn't do this, and
you know John Ford.
He couldn't make another picture. This is like his big chance too.
Yeah.
And she plays to his insecurity, and he bites, and he gives the feud.
And let me say this about Robert Aldridge as a director. So just so you know, like, nothing's off. These were two very talented women, and I happen to think Davis was more talented than Crawford. But as a director, Robert Aldridge goes on and does Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, which is another fabulous film that you'll see. But then he goes and does The Dirty Dozen, which is such a big film that they make a remake of last year with Denzel. Giant war film, huge and mainstream. And then he goes on to make The Longest Yard, the 1974 version, which is one of the probably greatest sports movies of all time. Doesn't get talked about enough, and definitely one of the top two. So that and Deliverance are probably the only things Burt Reynolds would want to be remembered for. Like, that's how great of a film it was. And the fact that he could also be reduced. It's funny, Longest Yard story. The last scene of Longest Yard, the prisoners who have a football team are playing the guards who have a football team. And the prisoners have got to score a touchdown to win the game. And he literally, as the director, said, play football. He didn't say, okay, you're going to step to the left and let Burt Reynolds run in. No, play football.
Oh, wow.
And what happened was the guard team was made up of former professional football players. So Burt Reynolds and them kept trying to score, and Aldrich, was notorious. He just said, again. So this is when he's older. He's become such a sadist.
Oh, wow.
They're killing each other. And finally, you'll see the scene. Burt literally climbs over somebody's body, which is completely illegal in football, but Aldrich didn't know that. So he's like, all right, you scored. There's another. There's also another. Now, Ed Lauder, who worked with us.
Yeah.
Remember Ed Lauder?
Yeah.
He was in Lange, so he told me Robert Aldrich stories.
Yeah.
There was a veteran actor, I believe his name was Michael Conrad, who was in the film. He plays an old prisoner who at one time was a professional football player, and so Aldrich does his last take with this actor, and he leans over to his AD, his first AD, his assistant, and says, "Are we done with Michael Conrad? We've got everything. We don't need any more close-ups. Nope.
Yeah.
He's like, "We're done. Okay. Are you sure? Yes. Great. Can I get the crew all together? Actors, everybody." And he basically is like, "I want you to know that Michael Conrad is the biggest piece of crap. Blah 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 blah.
My God.
You should never work with him if you're working for. I mean, like."
Laid into him.
Oh yeah, like, and Diaz Ed Lauder, who was probably in his 30s at the time, and Burt Reynolds, they looked at each other like,
Yeah.
But this is how that whole line, Hitchcock actors are just sheep,
Yeah.
or cattle, you know. So
Yeah.
now imagine a woman who has very few roles, who's at the end. I mean, like, you just imagine the torture. So Aldrich, even though we're seeing a conflicted and human side to him, we know historically, at least what he'll go on to be, he's one of the best directors you've never heard of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's got it in him too to be
Yeah.
a sadist, to turn the screwdriver.
The crazy thing is none of them had anything to be insecure about, but they were all insecure, which is what caused
And so
the
is the
conflict.
irony.
Oh, for sure. You know what this reminds me of? And I might get in trouble, but I love this like juicy tea. You remember when Desperate Housewives started, and they had all like, you know, even Longoria was
At
doing
the Vanity Fair shoot.
Yeah. And so basically, for all you who don't know, you know, Desperate Housewives came about. Nicolette Sheridan was on her last leg. Eva Longoria hadn't made it big yet. Felicity Huffman was kind of sort of in the mix, but not really. And what's her name? Edie, who's the brunette?
Terry
Hatcher was also on her last leg. And all these women came together, and it became a huge success. And then Nicolette Sheridan and Mark Cherry had this huge falling out. Huge falling out because her insecurities, her ego got the best of her. She wanted to be in the middle. She wanted to be in this one. And then at the Vanity Fair shoot, shit hit the fan. And they were reporting about it.
And didn't he either strike her or something?
Allegedly.
Right? Well, I know it was like everybody. I heard that from what I heard. So my tea is that he did, but ABC and everybody backed him because he was the male with power.
So
this is
look
what
at
I hear.
this.
That's
Look-
what. Yes, you
Look
are hitting
at
on
that.
something.
These are all such
Shades
who
of-
knows situations.
Right?
You
But
just
you know
never
what
know.
I'm hearing is Feud season 5, Desperate Housewives.
Right?
Seriously.
No, for
Are you
sure.
serious? You
No,
heard that?
100%. I'm saying
It should be.
Oh, yeah.
It's got what? No.
So
the
then-
toothpaste just went out of the tube.
No,
You ain't getting that back
100%.
in.
No,
I'm
no.
telling you, that's a series.
No, it was
because you're right.
crazy.
You are hitting on something.
It was crazy. Nicolette Sheridan thought she was Nicole Kidman at that point because she had the biggest show on ABC, but she didn't know how to be in an ensemble. And these women were pitting each other. The men were pitting these women against each other. That Vanity Fair photo shoot should have never happened. They should have went in there by themselves and then stitched into place.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
That's what bothers me so much is that these men have gotten together and they've torn these women apart, and it bothers me that they go on to have success because I hate when bad people go on and have success because you were literally so selfish in that moment and so insecure that you decided to build your success off of tearing them apart, and that really bothers me.
That's exactly what Bob did. When he spoke to Hedda, I felt like I'm glad they explained his motivation, that he was so desperate, that he was so
Insecure.
But that's when your true character shows.
Yeah.
Exactly. He needed the money. He's
in
can
your
I just,
darkest and most
give
desperate moment.
And can I give note to management? Because I
What management? They don't know how to manage. That's the problem.
But here's the note, because I know cynical people will say, well, these actors, and they're all divas, they're all children anyway, so you have to treat them like shit before they treat you like shit, and then the talent thinks, well, we have to attack before we get attacked. Really, everyone gets sat down, and you have what you call a sit down, and you're supposed to sit everybody down and go,
Like in
listen,
the mob.
we're here to make a great movie. Who's here not to make a great movie? Maria, you announced that on one of our sets. Who
I did.
here? Raise your hand. Who is here for any other reason other than not to make a great movie? Because that's why I'm here. That's why and you get everyone together and say, guys, big picture. Let's win together or part friends. There's not gonna the win is going to be so short term for anything else. And maybe you will be the one who wins the Game of Thrones and you've ruined everybody. And we've seen a lot of beasts in our business and they stand on their big throne with their hands on their hips. But at the end of the day, every single one of them that I've ever seen has died tragically.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's always a tragic end for the people who win that way.
Yeah.
Rather than Olivia de Havilland, who wasn't like that, and so she's sipping wine in France.
Yeah.
You know, and so you really, it's about the director. At some point, someone needed to stand up to somebody and go, look at Jack. You know you got Jack on the hook.
He already
was
loved
desperate.
it. He was
Yeah.
obsessed.
He
He
loved
didn't
it.
have to do this.
He loved
Yeah.
it, and he needed a hit too. So you go, you know what? With all due respect,
You do it.
you need
And-
to you need to trust me as a director. I'm going to deliver you a great product. All that other stuff, it's all going to work itself out. But it's not worth destroying two other human beings.
Who are already down and out.
Right.
When you think about
There's
it,
no
they're
need of it.
alone and they're insecure and they're at the end of their careers, and not to mention they're legends.
Yeah.
How dare you?
No, that's crazy.
How dare
but
you.
you can see in the movie theater, when in the screening room, when he and Jack Warner are watching the the slides for the day, and he's like, "You have to pit them against each other." There's a part of him that just melts.
Yeah.
Because he knows he has to do it for his career, but something in him feels bad.
He feels
and
Yes.
he feels so guilty.
Conflicted.
And I can't wait to see what that does to his character
Well,
throughout the series.
You'll see we saw the last scene. Not to get ahead, you see the last scene, which was so powerful, which we'll talk about later when he's sitting in bed with his wife. Like, you just in good storytelling, show don't tell, great director, patient, long.
Yeah.
Just a one master shot was there for. It felt like 10 minutes.
Oh,
it was
for
just
sure.
him sitting there. Oh, it's 5 a.m, time to get up, and he's just sitting there, and that wife opens her eyes but doesn't turn around, and you're like, oh my.
Now he's alone too.
no, he's
Exactly.
alone.
Right, and oh, guys, and as we said earlier, all unnecessary.
All
They were
unnecessary.
making great work.
Yeah.
So here was the interesting thing that I saw, is of many things. So when they're watching that footage, Jack also did he not say something like, make it more campy, make them more ridiculous?
No,
like,
I don't remember that.
He was saying something to that effect. Go back and watch.
No,
the
he
scene.
said like make them hate each other
Right, and
more.
I
Yes,
thought he said the
absolutely.
rancor was coming
But
off
he
the
was like,
screen.
no, he's like, he basically kind of dissed their acting, but he's like, what I see is the hatred. And what you see with Bette is she's such a great actress. She's like, wait, where's the line where I'm going into camp?
I think she was concerned that her performance was solely based on her real true competition with Joan at that point, and that she was going too far. Not that she was being campy. She was like, how much of this is like I'm losing myself in this whole situation.
Well, I think that hatred of Joan could poison the acting to make it
Yes.
campy. And
Yes,
there were
yes,
people,
yes, you're right,
And
you're
there were
right.
people that were, so you guys know, listen, you brought Mommy Dearest. I love Mommy Dearest, number one. Number two, I thought her performance was amazing in that Faye Dunaway.
I'm about to say, don't come for Mommy Dearest. Don't come for
But
Mommy
Jason,
Dearest.
you know, Jason, that there's a faction
Justin.
out there that say, Justin, I'm sorry, that say that that's the worst film ever made. It won Razzies.
No,
Yes.
don't come for Mommy Dearest.
I'm so glad you say that, because I agree with you. But go look it up. Like it's panned. Faye Dunaway barely will talk about it. She thinks it ruined her career. She thought she was way too over the top.
Only
There are
reason
other
we know
actresses-
Faye Dunaway is because of Mommy Dearest.
Thank you.
Okay, I agree, but
I don't mean
agree.
that like,
Oscar.
but that's what we know
but
her
there's
for
also a
most.
faction that believes Bette Davis was way too over the top in this character.
And now we know her for
Okay,
telling La La
so-
Land they won.
Right.
The biggest Oscar blunder ever. Poor Faye. Poor Warren Beatty.
But and you see it just there's a whole other story in that, but that role destroyed Faye, and Faye lived out the same fate as these people
Listen,
are living out.
It was such a great movie. They won. We know that Bette and Joan lost something in the end, but they won because they got praise for their roles. I think the biggest loser in this situation is going to be Bob. I think Bob.
Like he went on to be successful.
wait,
but
wait, wait.
Personally,
Like, personally,
yeah.
I think he's gonna lose the most.
Series-wise, yes. Career-wise, pretty similar. Meaning, success career-wise, but probably
not in his real
hardened
life. Yeah.
and emotionally and scarred emotionally.
Yeah.
I loved, so let's go back to like the beginning of the episode for a minute, because I loved how Joan and Bette had kind of this unsteady alliance, and what ended up happening is enemies need a new enemy, and so they were enemies, and then all of a sudden they found a common enemy in Aldridge, and they teamed up against him.
Can you back up, Maria, because I think we're all leaving out something important. Can we talk about the casting of the girl next door?
Oh, yeah.
And Maria
yeah.
called it. It's like a beautiful girl comes in, and I say to myself, God damn, one of the things that stuck out to me in Baby Jane was that the neighbor's daughter was A, not attractive to me, and B, not a very good actress. I'm like, wow, this is miscasting. Ryan, you've been on the money about everything. And Maria immediately is just wise enough to say,
she'll be gone in a moment, honey. Don't worry.
What did you say?
And if you look it up, B.D. Merrill is who plays
Spoiler alert,
who plays the girl next door.
I didn't realize. So that was Betty's daughter that played the girl next door, and whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Let's save it because
I'll
we'll
confirm, but
probably
yes.
see that. At least we know historically. But
Well, to make her make nice with her, she probably had to.
That spoiler. Don't get ahead. Stick with this now. Like you knew immediately, Maria.
Yeah.
This girl was up.
Yeah, why? Because I've watched it happen. I've watched it happen. God forbid you are pretty and you have light, you must die. Story of my life. I'm sorry. I hate to be like that.
Maria, save it for your morning show when you spill the tea.
I'm serious though, Justin. It's awful.
Okay, but I want to speak to the latter part of what you just said. The light.
Yeah.
It's not just the pretty. It's the light. We've seen people with the smile and the bright sunshine, and that people are jealous of and want to knock it out. And I know about
not just me either. I've watched it happen to other people.
I'm saying in general, there's something about darker forces that it's just that, wow, he's happy, she's positive, she's excited. We must kill her.
Yeah, but you know what? To their defense, they knew that their director would lose focus the minute he saw her.
To their defense.
And that it wouldn't become
I don't believe in that.
It would be about the movie.
No, Maria.
It would be about her because
Robert Aldridge had a history of sleeping with his little starlets. That's the Hollywood way. He easily could have banged her. Listen, I'll name drop right now. It was a movie. You'll
Where's
love
he
this.
going?
It was a movie that didn't go anywhere. It was an early Chris Evans vehicle, and this wasn't from Chris Evans. I heard this. I knew someone who worked on the film, and it was. Who was the star?
Are you talking about Kim Basinger in him?
Kim Basinger was
cell number
cellular,
or cellular?
maybe?
Cellular.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So I had heard from someone who worked on crew that the young director fell in love with Kim, started messing around with her, and the script, everything changed.
Yeah.
Everything
well,
changed.
you did see in this episode
So
and in the last
it could've-
episode how this movie could have gone in a different direction at any given point. Before they locked in Bette and Joan, they're like, we've been looking for a vehicle for Natalie Wood, and we've been looking for something for this person, and they kept trying to shift it. Let's make the neighbor hot and gorgeous and this and that. And so I get it, but
I'm with
it's
you.
hard for me
Easily.
because I watched a man be so insanely jealous of me coming into a program. And he and his team did everything they could to get rid of me before I even started. And then when I started, they said they're going to do everything they could to get me to quit, which meant they tortured me for 3 full years until I was so miserable that I wanted to quit. I never got to quit. Why? Because I had a family to feed.
Confirm that,
and
Maria?
I didn't want to die.
Confirm that, Maria. Maria, confirm that.
I shall name no names.
Maria, confirm that.
I shall name no names. So you're a smart boy, Justin.
Karma.
But that's the truth. And so what happens is people. So then they say everyone rationalizes it and they say, well, Bette and Joan were afraid the vehicle was getting it taken from them. Well, F you. If she could take it, then you did something wrong. That's it.
You know what?
Because I'm sorry, I watched someone do it to me. Why? Because they were afraid I was going to come in and then maybe they were going to get less money next year because they were going to have to pay for me and whatever. It's so stupid because you cut your nose to spite your face because together you could become a superpower.
Okay.
Alone, your ratings
By the
sink.
way, Maria, I couldn't agree more because I've been through it with you. Except, let's play devil's advocate.
Ratings can go up or they can go down. You choose.
He cast the hottie. He starts banging the hottie, which he's already. What do they say? Past performance is an indicator of future performance.
Yes.
So he starts banging this little girl, and all of a sudden now it's more story on her, and that's not the story. The story is these two women in their battle together, right? So. Do you
Rolling my bean burrito that way? Sorry.
Couldn't you just have a bad? Couldn't the movie have couldn't you see how the movie would have gone downhill?
Listen, I understand in some scenarios, and I think for these two women, this was such an important movie for them. I mean, it's fine. I have seen it and witnessed it and experienced it, and so I have a certain PTSD with it. But I do see,
Couldn't you see
potentially how it could have. But at the end of the day, when the movie was so much about these two women and their fire was so explosive together, like have a little confidence.
Yeah, it's
damn
not
it.
that, Maria. It's not that. They don't have control over Aldrich directing it, redoing scenes, or Jack Warner going, ooh, all of America's going to fall in love with her.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden now the plot goes away to this girl, and that ruins this masterpiece. And we know, again, from past performance, and they showed you with the way people wanted to even buy it when they tried to sell a film, you can see where there's a great significant chance it could go that way.
You know what I noticed in the show, and I love it, is the way you manipulate a man is with sex. And when Joan couldn't do that with Bob, she turned to Hedda and manipulated her with empathy and sympathy.
And yes.
But
and
was it true? Was her
No.
And
was Hedda
furthermore,
genuine in any way? I wanted to ask you guys that.
before we get to that, the other way you can get a man is emasculate him. So when they cut his balls off and say, "You're not John Ford,"
they got him.
right?
Yeah.
But you know what? But Betty was still young-ish, and she got her way with Bob using sex and using her femininity. But when Joan couldn't do it, she turned the heartstrings onto Hedda. I don't think any of that was true. I think she was not in debt. I think she was low on cash, but she definitely wasn't $2 million
She
in
did
debt.
need the money though, because they borrowed from Pepsi, and then when he died, and they had to pay it back.
I actually believed it.
She was totally in debt.
I think she was.
So
I
that
think
was
she
genuine.
was. I thought
She
that was
was.
genuine, but I was like,
But she was using it to manipulate. Absolutely.
could welcome to the house of evil or the house of fear? Could she be genuine in that moment? Do you think she was, or she was just like, this could be mutually beneficial?
Hedda,
No.
who are you asking?
Hedda.
Hedda or-
I think she was genuine because the way Joan Crawford positioned Bette Davis was like an outsider.
Yeah.
She didn't know what this life's about. She's not from here.
And Hedda said that. She's a Yankee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
she's a
again-
Yankee like me.
Well,
She's
and-
from
and-
Lowell,
and-
Massachusetts.
and shout
I'm
out-
from Medford, bitch.
Well, shout out to Susan Sarandon
Riverside.
because you can hear teases of the Boston accent.
She sounds like
Yeah.
a Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hear that Lowell,
Yeah.
Massachusetts accent coming out that Bette Davis had.
What are you talking about?
There you go. But again, I just keep noticing the contrast between the houses and the cars. So you notice bright yellow is what and that fake sugary sweet exterior in Joan Crawford, right?
Yeah.
And then Betty is in the black car.
Yeah.
Hedda is in a yellow car as well.
Yeah.
So she's team.
Oh, she's Stepford.
She's team.
Beverly
She's
Hills.
team Crawford.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah.
see. She's team Crawford. She's from that world. And then and again, a great storyteller, as I said earlier, will use everything in every weapon at his disposal, like Ryan Murphy's doing right now. So even notice the car that drives Aldrich, a station wagon, a green station wagon. He drives up. So you see these big, giant, fancy cars, and in the middle of it's that. And even the daughter, what's her name?
BD.
BD. Think of the music she's listening to. It's bubblegum, sugary crap.
It's Joni.
It's not really good quality music from the early 60s. It's the shit songs. It's not even like we wouldn't even listen to that and go, wow.
Itty bitty, teeny weeny,
yeah.
polka dot bikini. Yeah.
So even that is not just there's an age gap between us. It's not that.
We're just
because
different.
she could have been listening to, like 62. I'm trying to think like who was out in 62.
Yeah, tell us, honey.
I'm trying to think early who would have been early 60s. I mean, the Beatles come in 66, but still we had really good music. Still, we've always had good music, but no, she's listening to the sugary crap. That really is more the Joan world.
Yeah.
And
I thought the daughter was evil. What a little bitch.
I
what an
loved her.
ungrateful little bitch.
I would be like, I am so proud of
How
you.
dare you tear my ass out like that?
I
Oh
taught
my
you well.
God.
Betty had a relationship like that with her mother, and then it just went right down the line. They had contentious mother-daughter relationship.
But wait, so when we were watching this and I was like horrified, you two, I know Kevin needed a hug, so he got up and hugged Justin. When you were like, oh my God, I would love it if my daughter did this. So explain that, because I have no idea where you're coming from.
The way she stood up to her mother, yes, it was a little frank and it was too
Frank?
brash. It was just too brash.
It was nasty.
But that girl had balls. And she didn't get them from society. She got them from her mother.
Right.
She's a strong woman, and she made her point. And I think if history repeats itself in this show, she's not going to go back to East Coast. She's going to get a chance to shine because that's all she wanted. She dressed that way because she wanted to be noticed. She probably wanted a part in the show, and her mother would not let her do it. And after she stood up to her, then she's going to give her exactly what she wants.
Do you really think, though, that Bette was mad at her daughter for cavorting with the men on the set and being all hot because she wasn't hot? Or is it because you're talking about a woman who hid her breasts her entire career because she didn't want to be overt and didn't respect that her daughter was being overt?
She's reminding her of Joan, I think.
There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Great.
saying about the music.
Yeah.
Is Joan music.
It's Joan music. And it's also everything that Bette Davis didn't stand for.
Or respect.
But the times are
Right.
changing. The times are changing.
So it was less about the daughter. It was more about her morals and her kind of.
Yeah, and I think the daughter. I don't know. I'll get a lot.
Is her
of crap for
daughter
this.
still alive?
I think the daughter. I'm sure she is. I
And
think
she's married to the husband. Her husband is the son of Seven Arts Productions. She met him on the set of Baby Jane.
No way. Wow.
And they're still married.
I thought that
I just
she
called a
was,
living person a horrible thing.
ungrateful
Oops.
And I don't know.
What's that,
Sorry.
Kevin?
I think
What's that
there's
tea,
two
Kevin?
sides.
Wait, Kevin's trying to spill some tea, guys.
Unless she's being hit with coat hangers, I feel like the daughter.
I got
had-
hit with belts.
I think
I
the
got hit
daugh-
with wooden
I think,
spoons.
well, I'm referencing Mommy Dearest and an abusive, what seemed like it was an abusive relationship. But, no one's the perfect parent. But you coming up in a really good, you're in a pretty privileged environment, and just hearing Betty's interviews, like, she just seemed like she was really a smart woman. She was
Smart.
tough, but she was smart. I don't know if it just didn't feel like all of that was deserved. I felt like it was a bratty kid. Ballsy,
You know what?
you're
You
right,
never know.
but bratty.
I
But you
know.
never know what goes on behind
I
closed
know.
doors.
This is true.
I
It's
saw
like-
BD's interview, and I was on her side because she
You
said
were Team BD?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
because she said her mother, the minute she got married and had a successful marriage after several years, her mother was jealous. She had 4 failed marriages. One of
But
them
maybe
died.
that
she
was
said-
her
wait, she said that in
projecting
her
too.
book?
You never know.
Yeah.
What if BD was projecting that?
The one thing I'll say about
That's true.
I'll give this to BD. I feel like both these women, if they were married to anything, it really was their careers because they loved it. Like I feel like Bette loved listen, Maria, we've recently been with movie stars, and you're like, wow, Kevin, all he or she talks about is movies. I go, Maria, because they have so much passion for this that you don't have.
Yeah.
You have more of a passion for life and people, and that's great. But
Puppies.
But people have such a. Bette just had such a passion for acting and for filmmaking and for the craft, and that probably superseded a passion for wifedom or momdom.
Well, there's a dysfunction because extremism is just.
Well, I always tell people it's
Tough.
okay to have that passion, but then don't bring in other people into it.
Okay, well let me just
Go for it,
Let me
Justin.
just give you something to think about. Okay, you said BD was probably spoiled. She was probably ungrateful.
Right.
You're looking at the outside of it. Everyone thought Martha Stewart was the shit and the bomb and the nicest mom, the greatest thing.
Is this Feud season 6?
And then
Look, I-
the daughter wrote the book, and allegedly Martha had served the lamb that she had been raising to teach her a lesson, and didn't tell her until she was halfway done with the pet lamb. And she wrote a tell-all, honey, and it was the bomb. Like, blew the lid off that crock pot. Because for years, before Martha went to jail, everybody thought Martha
Yeah.
was like this, and I still think she's a
her
great.
lamb.
She taught her a lesson, and on Christmas morning.
Okay, no, now that's uncalled for.
So you know that your mom, Maria, tells me the stories all the
I
time. She's playing
know.
with goats in the village, and the next day they're having their Easter dinner.
But
and
that was just
they're eating
necessity. There was
but,
nothing.
Okay,
Yeah.
but people survive it. Again, I listen. I who here's worked with underprivileged kids? I have. I'm going to tell you, and kids that came out of the projects and had nothing, and if whatever they had was crackhead parents, and I mean, all of it. And so, I'm always, even when I have kids at AfterBuzz come and complain to me about mom and dad, I'm like, okay, slow down now. Let's see. You get your bills paid. You've gone to the best
Yeah.
education. You've listen. I get you don't understand because you haven't seen the other side. Let's go look at the other side, and then let's come back to this.
Yeah.
So again, your mother ate, and those mean old men would laugh at the table. Ask your mother, you're eating little Bobo. And you know what? I'm sure it affected your mom, and we know that, right? But guess what? Mom keeps on going and appreciates life, and so.
But she didn't have to cook that lamb. There was 30 other lambs
No,
on that
that
farm.
was-
I get
She
that.
wanted to
That was
teach
like
her
a
People
lesson.
had to. I get it.
Yeah.
You don't know evil. You don't, again,
That's
guys.
evil.
And
Martha,
remember,
I didn't say that. I know you went to jail.
And also,
I'm not-
listen,
I'm not-
no. I also want to shout out another thing. Parents in their 20s, 30s, even up to like early 40s. You know, why do you think when you see grandparents they get it right?
Do they
I
know?
know-
They spoil.
I know a lot. Well, some of them are spoiling you because
I know,
went
I'm
the other way
kidding.
and neglected. But why they get it right? Because after 50, they've got the patience. They have the greater understanding. When you're young, God, I mean, I got smashed in the face for spilling milk.
Yeah.
But they really had no more milk. It was like, that was how much stress. Now, once my father, oh my God, he was on his deathbed crying over this stuff. And when he was with the grandchildren, I get it now, I get it. Even to the point with me, like, I get that you waited to have kids. Your dad, Maria, always trying to force us to have kids when he was younger. And now he's like, no, I get it now, because now you go, would Martha do that again? I don't know. I wonder. Would she do it again? I don't know. We don't know.
Nah.
Let's go to Christmas at
We
Martha's and see.
don't know. And then a lot of these parents that, again, I've seen is that they're so successful, right? But they grew up with nothing. And then when they see the kids have everything and are complaining about Lila, they get angry.
Yeah.
And again,
I get
if you're
that.
not older, mature enough, and evolved enough to go, okay, I get what's going on here.
Yeah.
I need to keep myself in check. So I'm just saying.
But that's why I think the daughter, Bette, might have checked her a little bit in that conversation, and then the tables will turn for her. She would let her stay.
Okay, and so and listen, this is spoiler. So Bette's going to star in this movie, and then what? Write a tell-all book before the mother dies about how the mother is equivalent to Mommy Dearest. So really, was that the good thing?
Well,
she put her in check, and she puts her in a major motion picture, which to me is, how much more can you give somebody?
Well, then you sign that contract and you say, Bette, you cannot write a book about mommy.
Okay, but there's different. Okay, but we're talking about business versus emotional. I'm saying emotionally speaking, she did her piece, and the mother caves and gives to her, and obviously it doesn't work.
Yeah, but how many
We
times
know.
in Hollywood have we seen this happen over and over again, where the kids or the exes or someone in the family spills about
We see it all the time.
the person?
Oh, like Madonna and her brother.
Oh
and
my God, went off and on and on and
those
on.
are siblings. That's different. That's a sibling who was very jealous and just, and we know how that goes.
Jealousy is a real bad
But
one.
I think that, and you don't have a choice with a sibling, but I think that the key is you really either you have to pick your career or one or the other. Something's going to give. If you can't have both. You know, something's going to give. Number one, number two. Even for these kids in Hollywood that are having babies at 20s and 30s, you just know. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I
And it's a lot to live up to for a child who has the namesake. It's really hard. I've known a lot of them, and they're like, "Are you my friend because of me, or because of who my mom or dad is?"
Yeah.
That must be tough. That
It
can
is
be tough.
And just so you know, to bring it all full circle, this is why Adolf Hitler said he would never have a child.
Oh my God, honey.
He said that because
Kevin went there.
Yeah, he said because no one would
And
never
on
be
that
able to
note,
live up to me.
We're going to switch gears for a second. And the
you go.
only way I know how to do that is give myself a plug. If you guys are watching right now, tune into Conversations with Maria Monday through Friday mornings, live at 10 a.m. on Sirius XM Radio. Justin, you're going to come be a guest with me, a co-host, right?
Only if you're gonna tell me everything. Like there needs to be like a no holds bar situation going on.
Oh my God.
I want to
we
hear it
will.
all.
It's I have a lot of fun on that show. I think you'll have a lot
Listen,
of fun.
if you love
But
this stuff, the newsletter, Maria, too, right? You should mention your newsletter.
Yeah, well, I'm starting a newsletter, so I don't have time to write another book. But my first book, The Every Girl's Guide to Life, was kind of a guide for women of all ages to do everything better, faster, cheaper. So now I'm creating this little newsletter, and I'm sending it only to people via email directly. And it's going to have all my kind of tips and tricks and all the secrets and all the things that I'm obsessed with that I love that are genuine and not being paid to say.
Oh, nice.
Which I find is so hard to find nowadays because everything is just sponsored,
Flat tummy tea.
hidden, and oh my God, I love this nail polish, and you really don't, and it's just because you're getting paid. So, so I'm going to be doing that newsletter. You can email us at conversationswithmaria@gmail.com if you want to be on my special little secret newsletter list. I do want to move on and talk about the irony. And I don't know if you guys know anything about this, and Fern, you may have, being our research queen. The irony that Ryan Murphy is making this whole feud between these two women when he is actually working so hard to build women up. He's doing this whole 50-50 thing where 50% of his company and 50% of people working on his films and his projects like this have to be comprised of women. And he was talking about this at, I think it was the Variety Women's Power Lunch or breakfast or whatever that we had a couple months ago. And his speech moved me to tears. I was hysterical listening to him. And I think that it's really amazing because he's like, and if you know any directors, I need good ones. Because he ended up having to direct, what was that last thing he did?
People versus OJ?
Was it People? Yeah, I think it was People versus OJ. He ended up having to direct because the female he had to drop out for a reason, and he couldn't find another one, so he had to take it on. And he was going to have someone that was in the show, I think, direct it.
Sarah Paulson?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think I'm getting this right.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but the point is
he's doing this to raise awareness,
and he's an
females.
angel for doing this
He's
because
amazing.
we need that.
And FX, when they greenlit it, so I don't know, one of the guy second in charge over there, Chuck Safler, who been on the Tomorrow Show as a guest, and he said, we've been very fortunate with timing. So Black Lives Matter, out comes the OJ thing. He's like, and now the women's movement, and we didn't do it for that reason. We just did it because we knew this was a great story.
Yeah.
But it's great timing.
I'm not surprised because he really handled the treatment of Marsha Clark and OJ
Yes.
so beautifully.
Yes, that was the
people are
episode.
finally on her side and understand her.
20 years later.
20 years later.
She
but
went through it.
still.
And that was
Well,
the
you know-
episode he was going to have a female direct because he
Yes.
said they needed that sensitivity and that female connection.
Right.
The irony is with that is that Darden and Marsha, were victimized and vilified and all these different things. But in the end, isn't it interesting that pretty much everyone on the OJ team is dead, and if not, major tragedies like there's the few that are alive have literally lost their children. I mean, it's crazy, like what's going on. And there's Marsha, who's in the Hamptons, and Darden's teaching.
I can't wait to hear what he's going to say.
Go ahead.
Kevin's going there.
Sorry.
Kevin is going
If you
there
don't
tonight.
if you don't believe in a higher power, man, it's right
You just
there.
have to look at the defense team.
It's like they all the way to OJ. Everyone, nobody won in that one.
That's a cut. Kevin went there.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Can we talk about the scene where Bette Davis is chatting with her director and Bob Aldridge, and she wants to talk about I've written a letter to Daddy. So, of course, I started last episode with I've written a letter to Daddy. I can't get the song out of my head, and I'm obsessed. But what was amazing to me was that she was so concerned that she wasn't a singer. And what I thought made her so great in the movie, and whatever happened to Baby Jane, is the fact that she was this child performer and she knew how to perform. And now in her late years, her dad said you can never lose your talent, but her talent had faded a little, it got rusty. So her voice being imperfect was just a beautiful connection there. It worked.
But it's really weird because we always talk about the women in this movie using sexuality to kind of control the men. But if you look at that scene, the one before, Jack Warner's like, make one of them think you like them more. So he used the sexual appetite and kind of sort of his charisma to kind of make her feel like she was wanted. And then she like trusted him, because if you look at her, she was a little confused by it because that's not her normal role.
Right.
That wasn't Bette Davis's thing.
No.
And then here you come and this man is like, and she's like looking at his hands and like looking in the mirror.
I thought the moment was genuine.
No.
I thought it was about trust, though. Go ahead.
I think he was using, because Jack Warner said, make one of them think you like them more. And he was
is
using
true.
the sexual, he was using that power and that lust to get her in his corner.
He was so conflicted because he said, yeah, we'll have dinner with my wife.
Right.
Like he was trying
No,
to.
he got lost in it for a second.
But
and
I think he
then
did.
was
I
like,
think he got lost. And also, if you know, for Betty was the type that she had her way with men too, but whereas Joan used men to, I'm sure there was part of her that enjoyed the sex, but she used men to get ahead. Betty
Do
used
we
men.
know that for sure, though? That bothers me. I hate rumors, and I don't know. We don't know
I have
that
to go
for
to
sure.
Fern on this. Everything I've read, Maria, and shout out to You Must Remember This, great podcast that we all love. It looks like, what she wanted. But
I just finished a dual biography called Feud, actually, of Joan and Betty. And I mean,
Because I've
she
had that
should be able
done.
to
finish.
sleep. She should be able to sleep with whoever she wants, and there should be no judgment. But it seems that she did, and
Remember when I had that played on
Enjoyed
me?
it.
I had
I know that,
someone
but
spreading awful rumors about me, and I've had sex with 2 people, and they were not in California, and you are one of them.
Maria,
and I'm
Maria.
like, how dare people spread rumors like that?
You're right, but
Nasty.
So now
I'm
let
having a feud now,
but Maria,
right now myself.
But let me give you the counter. Let me finish. Betty, on the other hand,
I'm gonna let you finish.
Betty, on the other hand,
Drop that bomb.
didn't do that. Betty, it was for pleasure. And she said that in the interviews that you saw this weekend with me.
No one's accusing Betty
She
of
said-
getting
well,
parts for sleeping with people.
But my point is, well, in this moment, you might think that she slept with Bob Aldrich to get the upper hand
She
too.
didn't.
She didn't. It was genuine. She was like, I'm in the moment. I'm attracted to you. Let's do it. And then, she's like, in her interview, she's like, I still believe in marriage. I still believe in, but just didn't work for me.
I don't think she even knew she was attracted to him when they
She
were
didn't.
rehearsing.
No.
I think
She's had a moment.
She had a moment.
Vulnerability. She was vulnerable. That's when it happens.
At the end, when they have that moment.
But
when
I
they're
don't even
sitting
see
by
it
the
as
fireplace.
weakness. I see it as like, you know what? Like, this is in this moment, I'm feeling this. And a lot of actors and actors do this. They go in the moment, right? They go
It's
in
another
that,
version
like,
of
I feel it.
adoration, Kev. She was vulnerable and she needed adoration.
Ha-ha!
Maybe.
I thought the whole scene was about trust because I thought she was going to
I
walk
agree,
in and
yes.
say, "Are you sleeping with Joan?" Because otherwise, like, I can't trust you.
I
Yeah.
think
And then
think she, you guys, I think she loved the art so much that she has this creative breakthrough with him about your daddy. And which, by the way, when she does this in Baby Jane, she crushes. She sings this song, and he keeps lifting her arms higher, go bigger. That's what she loved, you guys. Like,
Ugh,
so
and
it's
then
like,
she says to him, I trust you. And I'm like, I hate him. He's making me
well,
cute.
because she
Ugh.
loves you guys. She loved the art and the craft so much, and I will give you tea that nobody cares about. Is I love it that much too. So when I talk to somebody about the art and we get going, it's like, oh, we love it. I have guys that like I have a creative crush on. We start talking and we get excited about a role and a part, and so someone like that who loved it so much, and he gives her this big breakthrough. Yeah. She's all in.
I didn't even
I've
see
never-
the
In
scene
the
as
moment,
sexual.
not like for the next 50 years. In that moment.
I thought it was sexual because
You did?
when it ended with
ended
his
like
hands
that,
on her
sexually.
heart,
Because
there was a
trust.
moment and then she broke out
she
of
was
it.
so insecure about her performance in the beginning, and he got her
He
to
got her
trust
there,
that she was going to perform great.
And remember in her interviews, William Wyler could do no wrong. Like, she respected the craft so much, you guys, that this guy gives her an honest breakthrough for the character, and she's like, I love you, you're mine. In the moment. Not like, oh my God, like, I want to marry you, I'm in love with you, I'm falling for you. No, in the moment,
she
let's-
loved him because he made her. She trusted him that her performance is not going to be.
And
a
because
fool.
the
She's
because
gonna look good.
performing to her was so important. It was so important.
Side
Not being
note-
adulated like Joan, but turning in that great performance.
Side note, I've never seen a straight white man use the T as accurately as you. And I'm going to give you, because people use the T the wrong way all the
Correctly.
time, I am pretty impressed with you.
Well,
Thank you,
Justin,
sir.
I'm going to just say he's pretty hip. I am going to say right now that we have questioned his sexuality at times. I'm kidding.
Question away.
No, I'm like this.
So that's when you get
I'll always be
older.
like, Boo,
I'm like,
are you
Fern,
sure
can
you're not
walk
gay?
out- Fern, can you walk out this room? I have to do a 2020 report on this shit right here.
The older you get, the less you care. Whatever moves the needle.
Right? And I love that, like, what's the gay guy's name?
Oh, Victor Buono.
No, we have
Oh
to
my
talk
God, he was
Victor
amazing.
Buono,
We
the
have
Paul
to
Giamatti
talk.
of his day.
By the way,
Unbelievable.
she was so mortified that her love interest was an overweight gay man.
let's
She
go-
had a
and let's-
duality in the
and let's-
moment because she was
let's-
like, he's
Well,
interesting.
Wait, let's go to.
Yes.
let's-
And he was Victor's doppelganger. Like, he looks so
He
much
looks so
like
much
him.
like Victor.
Yeah.
Sounded
Okay.
like him.
He sounded like incredible. Shout out to this actor who played Victor. Let me again give some props to Victor Buono, who you'll see him in Baby Jane. This guy was a gay guy in his early 20s. As you'll see in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, who he could pay a 60-year-old father. That's how good he was. He ends up dying at like 42. He goes on to play King Tut, which kind of camps up his career, but people don't understand this was an amazing actor who just didn't live long enough to become what he should. But he was so incredible that in his early 20s, he could pull off, you'll see, he plays a dad in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, and in this, he plays a love interest, even though he's a fat gay guy. Symbolically speaking, she wants black coffee. Remember the black car? I don't want the sugar. And he's stuffing his face with the sweet
sugar,
donuts.
yeah.
And we see the bright colored donuts. So he's on the surface, he's Joan, but watch as they get to know each other better. They become very dear friends.
Yeah.
Because she loves the art, you guys.
Because she respects talent.
Yes. And so watch what happens when she sees how talented he is. Watch what's going to happen.
You make it sound like when you say, die too early, didn't get a chance to really go there. It sounds so much like Heath Ledger. Because for me, he would have been like a De Niro.
Absolutely.
At some point, like
when you see what he did with Joker.
But at least we know Heath Ledger. No one really knows Victor Buono, you know, other than King Tut, which is camp. So to me, but if you watch this guy's work, he's phenomenal. But again, that moment was pivotal because she's like, wait, you're sugary, you're sweet, you're fat, and you're gay. Like there's so much going through her brain, right? Like I'm no longer good enough to have a handsome young leading man. You bring me a fat young gay guy. But then he's eating all the sugar and the crap, which is Pepsi Cola, which represents, right? But she does, and Sarandon seems like she has this peculiar look like, wait, maybe there's something more to this guy.
Yeah, we're vibing.
Right. And I'm confused as to why.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think she appreciated his confidence because he just bit the donut and walked away.
Yes.
No, but that's the balls thing. That's what you were saying about the daughter. Why she's going to now respect the daughter in a different way because she said she was right.
She's
she
like,
told
washed
him.
up.
We're cracking it.
But I will say, since we're talking about performances and we have not given a shout out to Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange because they are fantastic. And when you watch Susan Sarandon become Bette Davis in the actual scene, when she's crying in the mirror or when she's singing, I am blown away at how much she captured her.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
But you know what? It's hard for me because I love Jessica Lange, but Faye Dunaway just did it. Like did it.
Yes.
She murdered
she
it.
Did.
But I think that she had a closer look to Joan Crawford, where Jessica Lange
Maria?
And what?
I think Faye had more inside to tap into.
I
think there's an inner Joan in Faye.
Honey, she is the second coming of Joan.
And
I
that's why
rewatch Mom and Dearest now.
We watch it. Let's watch it together because I'm with you. I'm obsessed with the movie. I'm obsessed with her performance. Christina! I mean, just the shoulder pads and the posture, everything I thought
I can't rewatch that scene with the closet, though. It hurts me.
No. The only scene you need to watch is when she gets to that boardroom and she goes, "Listen here, fellas."
Yeah.
Like that's takes over Pepsi. She's like, I don't know shit about Coca-Cola, but I'm gonna run this. And
but I'm a what?
I'm gonna run this. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm gonna run it.
I agree.
And for me, that's the hard part.
But I also think that as a business person, obviously Jessica Lange is a better name to use now. I don't know if Faye's too old to play it. I don't know if that's the reason why. I will say as a director why I would rather go with Jessica than Faye, because I think Faye would bring so much of the Joan baggage to a shoot.
Yeah.
And Ryan works with Jessica, and they obviously have a good relationship.
You guys as a director, even if it's gonna be for the greater good, there's so many great actors and actresses out there. You just don't want the drama, and I feel like Faye would have brought that drama.
Yeah.
Which she would have been amazing.
Maybe
You're
not.
Right. You're right, but why would you want to take the chance when you have a great working relationship with Jessica?
But Faye would have been. I mean, Faye.
Yes, I
love
agree.
Faye to death, but she's a little too long in the tooth, as they would say in Hollywood. Like she's just a little.
Well, they different. She's like 70 and Joan's 60 right now. The character of
At
Joan.
this point, I think Joan's like.
I think late 50s.
Like late 50s.
Yeah,
late
so
50s.
that's why
So
she's
like
too
she's a
old.
little bit. Yeah.
Even though she looks great.
Yeah, but
She
the
looks
70
amazing.
now is the new 50. Like we're 20 years behind.
True, but I think the.
But I think Jessica Lange is crushing, and I think
She's doing great.
Susan Sarandon, the whole cast, everyone's doing such a phenomenal job. It's unbelievable.
I even love Stanley Tucci with. I noticed the veneer caps on
Yeah.
his teeth, just perfect.
Always wears
And the
those.
receding hairline.
Yeah, and another treasure. Stanley
Kev, do you
Tucci.
remember? Kevin's my USB drive. I have no hard drive space left. But do you remember when we would talk to Randall and he had all the inside scoop on Louis B. Mayer because of Margaret and Anita
Go
and
back
everybody?
to Anita Page, which we talked about
Because
on
you
last
see
week's
Louis B.
episode.
Mayer in this episode.
Yes.
And they were, from what I remember,
guys-
really cruel.
They were. Here's the thing: they had way too much power. These men, and they were only. You could count on one hand who ran Hollywood, and Louis B. Mayer was one. And he was. I know with Anita Page, he was like, "Listen, Anita, your last couple of pictures are bombs." He's like, all we got to do is sleep with me, and we'll have an extended play, another 5 years as head of Hopper, which back then 5 years was to them
eternity, yeah.
an eternity. It's not like today where we're living 100 years old, like, you know. So, but and when Anita was like, "No, I'm Catholic. I don't believe in that," he's like, "You're done." And not only are you done, which you still see in Hollywood, they try, but thank God because of the internet, and thank God that we have so many other business opportunities. You fucking asshole piece of shit suits can't do this anymore to people.
Kevin just came for you.
Exactly.
Okay, but you cannot go. You know what?
Slay those studio ads, honey.
You're not going to sleep with me. So not only are you done here, which good. Okay, kick me out of here. That's bad enough.
But
you're not
call
working
me.
anywhere else. And we've even experienced that in our end of the business. Like it's like, let it go. We're not even competing with you anymore, and still making those calls.
Right.
It's an old Hollywood thing. Joan Rivers, when she after she left the Tonight Show, she got her own show at Fox. The minute the show started going south, the guy running Fox at the time, and Joan talked about this to the day she died, was like, okay, not only so it's not working out here, but I'm going to make sure you work nowhere else.
Yeah.
So it's not enough that we're going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
We have to bury you so you can't go succeed anywhere else and make us look bad.
Yeah.
And so with a Louis B. Mayer, it was like, Nita, you're fired, and I'm going to make sure you don't work for anyone else. All the way, this is how much power he had that it was a Gloria, who was the mistress of Hearst. She was. Was it?
Oh God.
Was it Gloria?
Marion Davies.
Marion Davies. So Marion was friends with Anita, and Anita would go up to Hearst Castle all the time and complain to them. And he would say, you know, and this is a guy who had owned all the newspapers.
Yeah.
And even he didn't have the power to overcome. And he tried, but he's like, I can't. Even he didn't have the power.
Didn't Louis B. Mayer have them call him Papa, and he acted like he was so moral?
Oh,
like
yes.
people-
No, they were just
right.
psychotic. Yes. Well, even going back to that, remember, Jack Warner says to Joan, don't play that daddy shit with me. I'm not cut
Yeah.
the shit. I'm not okay. And then and then later to Betty, he goes, Big Daddy says,
Yeah.
What?
You're right.
They all did.
They're
You
so
remember that
confused.
time that Katherine Heigl decided to piss someone off
Yes.
at Grey's
Yes.
Anatomy, and then she was doing NyQuil commercials after that?
Yes, because they made sure.
And I felt so bad for her because she was so talented, and she
So
was
talented.
She was at the top of her game. Won 27 dresses. She had all those
Yes.
movies, one behind the
Yep.
next. And then she pissed somebody off in Hollywood. I don't know how because I have
hard.
worked with people.
Well, everyone likes to push down a falling fence too. Chinese proverb. So once one person does it, then
Yep.
everyone jumps.
came for her life.
Well, Nicolette Sheridan, has she really had much success since that lawsuit? It's like
Came for her life.
we send you a message. You want to try to fight back, or we'll show you.
Yeah.
And I'd say it all goes back to me in this. Grab that book, make your own project,
Yep.
and then don't let the petty shit get in the way. Everybody's put a great team together that's committed to that one goal. That's
She
the
kinda
only way.
tried. I
She
mean,
tried.
she did.
Listen, and she tried, you guys, 70 years ago.
And it's hard when
Li-
they're all coming for you because everybody was coming for them. Everybody was pitting them up against each other.
They
The
had no chance.
psychological
They had no
warfare was
chance.
so
and we
deep.
we also have to say this about when we're judging these people as parents, when we're judging how they handle their careers. You guys,
There's
this
no
was
manual.
No, this was a new art form.
Yeah.
Okay, the silent films were like almost like prehistoric. It was like BC. So this was like this is, you guys, we're talking that this is a medium that's really about 25 years old. The Oscars started in 29 or 30. This is so even when you see a David Cassidy or those teen idols, it was all new. Today we know how to manage it better.
Yeah.
That's why Selena Gomez is able to kind of grow in her career and keep going. Like, we know now. We know certain things even as parents. Like, so when I caution everybody, when we're judging what we're seeing, this was all so freaking new to be looked at as a god.
But I say it all the
You know what I
time.
mean?
I say it all the time. Justin Bieber had no manual on how to become a child star and survive it. There's no manual on how to be a
but wait,
parent.
I
There's no
agree.
manual on how to deal with
There
your
is
money.
there is no manual
Unless you
for
read Tony
Justin and
Robbins'
them.
book.
There is no manual. But Maria, their handlers today have 70 years of data to go
true.
by, and that's why there's a better. But these people didn't. So we have to be a little bit more understanding that human beings, and there was no. Oh, well, 30 years ago, this is how it goes. No, it was, you have a shelf life of 3 or 4 years as a female, so you must kill or be killed.
Bitch, I cannot wait to see what my kids write about me. They are gonna write some shit about me, and I'm gonna write the forward.
No, will you stop?
Oh my God,
I'm gonna be like, do it.
To be fair,
So
though, I
funny.
feel like I would rather have my blue-collar parents who were mentally healthy than rich parents
Yes.
who were narcissists.
No.
And not
That's so
involved in your
damaging.
life. You're
No,
right.
No?
You're right.
I'm a people. I love to watch. I love to observe. I like.
We can
to,
take
like,
you to watch the Cuckoos.
I
you don't need
would
to
have
live it.
loved to grown up like.
No.
like,
You grew up
Really?
blue collar.
I grew up my single parent family. My mother
No,
worked
and
from
that's why
7
you,
o'clock
and that's why
to
you're
9
amazing.
o'clock.
And that's why you're sitting here today.
and
Come on.
thank you so much. But to be completely honest, if I could be a fly on the wall, at
Fly on the wall.
In the
yes.
Hilton
at Madonna's
home.
house. No, at Madonna's house. Can you imagine being
Yeah,
raised by
that's
Madonna?
different.
Oh, don't get me
Fly on
wrong.
the
I want
wall,
to read
yes.
about all
No,
of
I'm
them.
sure she's
but
gonna.
I
Oh,
don't
no,
wanna raise
I
by
would
them.
have loved to have Angelina Jolie as I'd be one of the 7 kids in the horde.
Okay, and
the
that'd be
private
fine.
plane.
But she's gonna. Angelina's more involved. Again, she's had 7
let me
years.
go. Let me go back. I
Go
would
back.
have loved to been Marilyn's only child. Like,
Marilyn Monroe.
yeah. Oh, I would have loved to like
Or
know
Marilyn
what that was
Manson.
like.
Okay, well, Jones, would you, Joan or Betty, you'd want to be their kids?
Joan and I would have boxed out like 2 women in a bag. Like she and I would have fought. But yes, but that's a whole nother experience because you know what? Yes, the mental abuse, the emotional abuse must have been hard, but the good times must have been phenomenal too. Just to watch that kind of a legend,
Interesting.
like in.
Well, I said that about. That's why we're going back to what I said about BD. Like, stop your bitching. Think of other kids how they grew up. Come on, you had a good shot at things. You have a pretty great lifestyle. If you went and saw the rest of the world, what's out there and how they're living, kind of hard for me to feel.
Oh my God,
bad.
hoping
I'm
that you'll have food
sensitive.
on the table and
Okay.
waiting
I'm
for your uncle
sensitive
to
to-
drop
I'm
groceries
sensitive
off,
to
like
it.
sneakily at
Hold
your
on.
Because
door.
everybody has pain and everyone is entitled
Holds on
to their pain.
Holds on, Kevin. Holds
Okay,
on.
sorry. Go ahead.
Do y'all remember when Aaron Spelling died?
Yeah.
And Tori Spelling thought she was getting all kinds of money. And then Candy was like, bitch, halt. Here's $400,000, deuces. Could you imagine that you thought that you were going to be the heir of the Spelling fortune and then your mother...
It wasn't
wrote
the
you-
mother. So what it was $800,000.
Kevin knows he was at their house.
It was $800,000, and it was Aaron who left her that. But guess why? And I don't even think Tori understands this because she said, my dad wasn't a great businessman; he was a great artist. Like, no, Tori, for a man to become a
billionaire,
as close to billionaire, he was a great businessman. I remember playing cards with him one night, and he was giving like 50 cents
at their house.
No, in Vegas
Oh, I
with
thought it was at
Tori
their
and
house.
Candy. It was just one of those things. We at the NAPTY convention, and he was given $1 tips and whatever. He's a very frugal guy, very smart with his money. I believe that he did that because he knew if he gave her the lion's share, then she'd have no reason to reconcile with the mother. So now she's a little bit on the hook. She has a good enough life, but not the amazing. And so she's got to, play. He loved Candy, and he cherished Tori, loved her, and he did not want them to be separated, and he didn't want probably Candy to be this old woman with no one in her life. So
Season 7.
So
Makes
now,
so much sense.
Right?
so she gets just enough. You can make 800's a lot of money. I still know what $1 is to the rest of the world. That's a lot of money. That's
Well, if
not,
compounding over 20 years, that would be 2 times.
Tony Robbins' book on finance
on,
will tell
so-
you this. Maria, come on.
Okay,
come on.
forget it.
But no, by the way...
The point is that's why, and that's why they do have a strained relationship, but they have a relationship.
$800,000
That makes so
is a
much
lot
sense.
of money, but $800,000 to Tori Spelling is a drop in the bucket.
Okay, but guess what? I argue it's brought out the best in Tori because she developed her book line, her series. She keeps going. She's got purpose. Yes.
She's a hustler. I will give her that.
But-
She's hustling.
And when I look at the housewife shows, it's one of my biggest things. Is like they're such an example of when you have no purpose, when all you have is money, you're nuts, you're miserable, you're not. You know what I mean? So I think it was a smart thing that Dad did that. What I'm hoping is that when Candy goes, then her and the brother will get. I'm hoping they'll get when they should, when they're in their 50s or 60. But that's what I'm hoping.
That makes
and
so
I
much
feel
sense.
and I do feel like the mother. She says I give them just enough. Like she's always there,
yeah.
but not enough to say I can just put my. Like the mother said, like she buys everything in sight. She has no, she hoards. She does it, and I'm not going to finance that.
If you're good to mama, mama's good to you.
Anyway,
So take this. Welcome to the will reading. Tori, 0. Like that would be that my mother would do that to me.
Oh, no. Oh my
She'd be like, "You've been waiting for this, and here you go: two
Sucker.
McDonald's gift cards and a Starbucks receipt."
Are you close with your mom?
My mom and I are close-ish, but I've been on my own since I was 15. So I'm just like,
And
I'm like,
again,
We'll talk about this on Conversations with Maria.
Better
I'm an
man for
owl.
it. Better man for it.
But you know what? You're right.
That's what I mean. So you guys, we all have to go on our journey. And again, so with BD, those people that I've sat with, and I've sat with even some of the other people in Hollywood that are bitter. I'm like, but look at all the many, many blessings. Come on. You know, you're choosing to be bitter and miserable and blame mommy and stop it. You know, like, come on.
How crazy, though. Let's end on this. I love by the end, I wrote one note down, the similarities between Bette and Joan grow more insane because whether it's them being alone, their kids hating them being on the outs of, you know, their careers and them needing each other and then, you know, them being manipulated by so many people. And it's just so insane how similar they were. So I leave you with that. Guys, it's been real. I can't
so
wait
real.
for the next episode. I'm dying.
This is like, this is why we love to binge, right? And we can't binge. So this is like, it's a painful 6 days to the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Kevin is a Grim Reaper today. You were coming for everyone's lives today. You came for everyone's lives today, Kevin. You were like, you know what? Here's the tea. You're done.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us. As always, if you love the after show for Feud, you will love the after show for your other favorite shows. We do, I don't know, about 150 hours of programming here a week. So check out the other after shows. Everything from Bar Rescue, hosted by the great Keven Undergaro, to, The Housewives by the great Fern. So tune in. Tell a friend, and
if you're watching us on YouTube, please send us any of your questions or your comments. If you're listening on iTunes, please rate and comment. That will help us. And
tweet us at Maria Menounos.
there you go.
At the Lady Sitter.
At Fern Ronay.
At Undergaro.
And ready? Now you know what you're doing, Justin.
Wait, I don't know this.
Buzz
you
you
later.
later.
That.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.